Why is it that so many products, even ones with amazing engineering and great reviews, just completely fail? They launch and nothing. It's one of the most maddening questions in the tech world. Well, we're going to get into that today because we are diving deep into Marty Cagan's legendary book Inspire to figure it out. The whole idea behind Inspired really comes from one single powerful lesson Kagan learned the hard way when he was a young software developer at HP. And honestly, this story pretty much changed how the best companies think about building products. I mean, can you imagine that? You pour your heart and soul into a project for over a year. You get patents, it passes every quality check, the press even gives it rave reviews, and then it's a total flop in the market. The team was obviously super frustrated, but that frustration led to a really important question. Who decided what we should build in the first place? And that right there is the key. It's the big realization at the center of the whole book. You can have the most brilliant engineers on the planet, a perfect process, but if they're building the wrong thing, you're just executing a failure perfectly. See, success isn't just about building the product right, it's about building the right product. That story just perfectly captures the huge gap between effort and actual results. And that's really what this book is all about. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter on the stuff that customers will actually care about. So how do you make sure you're building something that's actually worthwhile? Well, Kagan says it all starts with the people. To build the right product, you have to have the right people in roles that are super clearly defined. So let's break down who does what on a great product team. Okay, first up, the product manager, or PM. This person is basically the detective of the team. Their entire job is to own the what and the why. They have to do the really hard work of discovery. That means figuring out if an idea is valuable, as in, will customers actually pay for it? Is it usable? Can people figure out how to use it? And is it feasible? Meaning, can our engineers actually build this thing? The PM is your first line of defense against building a product nobody wants. Next, we have the user experience designer, or UX designer. This person is the customer's advocate. They live and breathe the user's world to make sure the product isn't just a random list of features. They ensure it's an intuitive, easy-to-use solution to a real problem. They're the ones who make sure the product just feels right. And then, of course, you have the engineering team. These are your architects, your builders. They take the what from the product manager and the user-focused design from the UX designer, and they make it real. They turn it into an actual working product. Their genius is in building the product right. But that genius is only unleashed when it's aimed at the right target. Now, what's really cool is that Cagan doesn't just define these roles. He gives you a practical blueprint for how to structure the team. These ratios aren't set in stone, but they're an awesome guide to make sure your engineering team is always working on valuable, well-thought-out stuff, and you're not creating bottlenecks. But here's the catch. Even if you hire amazing people for all these roles, a lot of companies still find ways to mess it up. Kagan points out these really predictable traps or dysfunctions that pop up when these jobs are misunderstood. He talks about 3 super common failure modes. The first is the marketing-driven product, where you basically skip the hard work of product discovery. Then there's 2 people, 1 role, where responsibility is so split that nobody actually owns the product. And finally, 1 person, 2 roles, where you ask someone to do 2 completely different, massive jobs at the same time. And this is exactly why we see so many office comics about this kind of thing, right? These dysfunctions are everywhere. We can laugh about it, but for the companies going through it, the wasted time, the low morale, and the failed products, well, that's no joke at all. So, it all comes down to clarity. This is probably the most important distinction to get right. Product management owns the what. They define the right product to build. Engineering owns the how. They build that product correctly. The minute those lines get blurry, you get chaos. And here's another place people get confused all the time. Product management is all about discovery, finding that great product idea. Project management is about execution, managing the schedule and resources to get it delivered. So the product manager decides that we should build a new electric car. The project manager figures out the timeline to actually build it. They're partners, for sure, but they are not the same job. All right, so getting the team structure right is a huge piece of the puzzle, but the whole thing kind of rests on finding the right person for that critical product manager role. So what actually makes a great PM? Kagan argues that the best PMs are built on a foundation of personal traits, stuff that's really, really hard to teach. We're talking about a true passion for products, real empathy for customers, raw intelligence, and an integrity that earns the team's trust.
Now, on top of those core traits, great PMs develop a set of critical skills. And the good news is, these are things you can learn. Things like knowing how to apply new technology, staying laser focused on what really matters, being a great communicator, and understanding the business side of things.
But more than anything, it's about their attitude. This idea of being the CEO of the product, it's not about being the boss or telling people what to do, not at all. It's about taking complete personal ownership. When the product is a hit, the team gets the credit. When it fails, the PM takes the blame. They just find a way to get it done.
And this brings us right back to the most important question that Inspired asks us. It really challenges you to look at your own company, your own team, and ask, who is actually responsible for discovering what's worth building? Who's the one person on the hook for making sure all that hard work is pointed at something customers will truly love? Answering that, well, that's the first real step to building an inspired product.